think with him. Um, just walk us through like what you think the rest of the year is gonna look like in terms of you working with us and coach.
Yeah, I guess you got to look back sometimes before you look forwards to give you a little bit of a reference point. It's been a really tough year for the Hunters, but I remember having a conversation with Paul and Scott pre-season. When you lose 10 of your best players and you're in an elite competition like the QRL, like if you lose 10 of your best players in the NRL and you were in the middle of the competition rather than on the bottom of it, it wouldn't be elite competition. Does that make sense? So I knew it was going to be a challenging year for them. I think for the most games is I can see the progression. It's a little bit like watching Newcastle Knights last year. They came last, but you could see their young talent progressing and coming through. So, and I think they're running fourth at the moment, aren't they? And even if you look at the Broncos maybe 3 or 4 years ago, you could see that young talent coming through. They just weren't getting the results. I identify pretty much the same thing going on in the Hunters at the moment. Obviously the weekend, when you have low confidence and inexperienced team, it's not nice getting thrashed. I know how that feels, but they're definitely a better side than what we saw on the weekend, that's for sure.
What are some areas you think the Hunters have lacked in?
Sorry, say that again. It's very windy, I can't hear you.
What are some areas you think Hunters have lacked? Do you think it's through experience or?
I think the biggest thing is definitely experience. I think their left side defensive unit, the total of games on the weekend between them were less than 30. You're playing in, look, if it's not the fourth, it's either the third or the fourth most elite comp in the world. The Queensland Cup, you've got NRL, Super League, then you've got New South Wales Cup and Queensland Cup that are basically level. So when you don't have that level of experience, but I can see the talent there. The talent's there. I'm obviously a fan of Coach Paul's, and I see what they do in their preparation. I went there and watched, and I say to him, if I didn't agree, and he knows if I didn't agree with him or how he's engaging the players, I certainly would be, to him, very blunt about that. But the quality of their preparation is certainly there. So it's easy for me because I'm not the head coach. I can look at things from a wider perspective, and I'm not a passionate fan like Hunters fans are. I can look at things from a different perspective, and I see such a bright future. Obviously, the pathways through are important, and in 2 years' time, just like Winner Manly on the weekend, right? There were 4 NRL players. 2 of them had just played recently, come back into their team. Well, that's what's going to happen for the Hunters. When someone's not selected in the Chiefs, they'll come back and play in their team. And they've been in, they're an NRL quality player, and they've been in that system and preparing in that system. So it'll make a massive difference.
Matt, fans are calling on the replacement for Coach Paul Aiton and some players. Do you think will that bring positive news or how that?
Oh, well, let me declare my allegiance to Paul firstly, because it's easy for me just to say something, and I'm going to be very respectful because I get how passionate fans can be. But I know rugby league fairly well. I head coached for 17 years and again did it really well and did it really bad as well. So I know how to do it both ways. The quality of preparation that Paul's getting the team to do it's elite. Okay, and I'm not just saying that, that's my opinion. If I didn't believe that, I'd come up with an answer like that that would be nondescript and, I think we're all going okay, but I'm saying it straight to your face. It's an elite preparation. The playing group's tough. It's tough. And here, the other thing that I've noticed that they've done is those standards. Now, if you want to produce, part of the measure of success for the Hunters is 7 players went to the London Broncos to get them into the Super League. Now, Jason Demetrio's a smart coach, yeah? Is he going to take the 7 worst players at the Hunters or the 7 best? Who's he taking?
7 best.
7 best. So, did you see their score last night? He's got these players that have been taken out of the Hunters team, and they're going to get the London Broncos into the Super League. Like, that's pretty cool, isn't it? And there's other players that have gone to, like other Queensland Cup teams aren't looking at the Hunters and they've taken the best players they can. And that's a measure of success. It kind of hurts, doesn't it? That a measure of success for the Hunters is that we lose our best players. Like, I'd be crying in the corner if that was me. So if you expect to lose 7 to 10 of your best starting players and compete in a competition, the competition is a poor competition. It's not. It's in the top 4 in the world. So, that's my long-winded answer to that.
Okay, Matt, what's been the conversation like with Coach Paul in terms of building, for the new season next year, but it's still early days, but for the remainder of the season actually, and then pre-season and...
Yeah. Well, as a head coach, you've got to have all that in perspective. And my thing of just talking to Paul then was he needs to cut down time of, you can't think about that all at the same time. And the big one is to win this weekend. And he's hurting. The team's hurting. You don't have an experience. I've had that experience a few times as a player and a coach. It's not nice, but it's a part of the landscape of footy. And I would prefer not to have it. But obviously the focus right now is on getting the team ready to win this weekend. Now that's difficult, isn't it, after you've come out of that situation? But I did explain, when I was coaching the Warriors, we got slammed by Penrith. I think they scored 60 odd points and we might have got 18 or something. But that was and I didn't have the same excuse as Paul. I hadn't lost all these great players out of my team. But it did become the incentive to win 7 straight, the next 7 games straight. So the focus has to be on winning this weekend. But he's also got to sit down and make time, not at the same time, but during the week to plan for next year. And Paul is very meticulous with that. If you were to ask me 15 years ago when I was coaching Paul, or maybe longer than that, if he was going to be that sort of person, I probably would have argued the point. But he's proven me wrong. Definitely proven me wrong. He is very meticulous around his planning, and his connection to the players is good, and he's got to keep standards, and that's something that PNG players are going to have to learn, that when you're in the NRL, the scrutiny is very high, very, very high. So the standards need to be equally the same.
Just talking about standards. Most of the players that are in the Hunters team are actually from the Digital Mobile Cup.
Yeah.
And most of the times during the start of the season, Paul was talking about how the players could gel together, and there were a lot of challenges in basically some simple things like in the ruck, the defense, the play the ball areas. So you might say the pickings are slim in the Digital Cup with the level of players. Is that a possibility? Like, it's a development pathway, and we're getting a player turnover, but the players coming up through the pathway system don't seem to be on par with the QRL level, closer to the NRL. Do you think that has been a challenge for the Hunters? That's
a really, really good question, and I think that's something that I believe that the PNGRL need to look at, because I want to see the Chiefs be successful. Talent's not the problem. You guys know this better than me, right? You've got to learn the system and the structure and the operation of play at the elite level. You can be as talented as you like, but if you don't understand how that works, in elite competitions, you're not going to be able to contribute in a way that you can. And I've seen players in the NRL, I've seen amazing players that have come through as young, talented players, and they've not been developed in the right way. And then when they get to the NRL, it's not talent that doesn't allow them to be successful. It's the fact that they haven't been developed in the right way. So that's a really good point, that it's not just a Hunters thing. It's not just a Digital Cup thing. It's a PNG Rugby League thing to go, we actually need to have pathways. In my belief, when the Chiefs come into the competition by 30, 32, 60 to 65, maybe 70% of players need to be local. Otherwise, why are we doing it? And, you know, I feel quite strongly about that because I know the talent's there. It's just not developed in the right way at the moment.
We've seen that the Hunters are opting maybe to source players outside of the PNG competitions. Do you think that would be an advantage, like having players not Papua New Guinea based or Papua New Guinea heritage, but from Australia joining a club going forward?
Well, it's going to be a part of what you experience when the Chiefs come in 2 years' time, definitely, because there's going to be players that don't get selected in the top 20 players that are not of PNG origin. I personally, this is a personal opinion, this is not what I think they need to do, but my opinion is I think that the Hunters should be for a development process fundamentally for local players. And it should be a part of the pathways into the Chiefs, into the NRL. There are players with the ability to play NRL in PNG, but it wasn't until 4 years ago that I really came to understand that they don't have the time from 8 years old to 15-year-old like Australian players do. So it's when you start to add up the time difference. I was just speaking to Joey Grimer of how much time Australian players get to be developed versus PNG. It's an unfair advantage. So in your trade, if you had 15 years more training than someone, or let me use the example, say 10 years more training than someone else, who's going to be the better at your trade? Even if that person is super smart and super talented. So yeah, it's a really important one, and it's good to see that it's happening. Obviously needs to expand.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep.